Hi, and welcome back to Posh Talk. I'm your host, Sierra. Hey, also known as the Posh Queen. And here we are for another episode. This is episode 35. Woohoo. So happy to be back. If this is your first time encountering Posh Talk, welcome. This is an entrepreneurship podcast, but it's not meant to be a hard listen. It's definitely supposed to be soft, lighthearted, and we're just gonna have some real candid conversation, and just think of me as your business bestie. You know, so yes, welcome to Posh Talk, and yeah, our first. Let's just get into it. I don't really have that many updates, but let's get into it. We're going to discuss our Posh Assets first. Posh Assets is the entrepreneurship section, but it's also kind of like a professional section. So sometimes I'll talk about entrepreneurships, and then sometimes I'll talk about business, but I honestly could talk about whatever it is because I just want to make sure that I'm providing value to you. So, with that being said, 2025, there's a lot that's going on. We're still in the beginning of the year. As I'm recording this is still Q1. It's going to be released in Q1. And it's probably going to get released sometime in March, if not the very last day of February. But as you know, we have a new president. The economy isn't on the up and up how everyone will want it to be at this moment. And everybody kind of wants extra money. So that kind of puts us in the framework of thinking like, okay, so what can I do to bring in more funds for my household? How can I level up whatever I'm doing professionally so that I can make sure that I have extra income or I can have sustainable income? And so I wanted to provide a couple of industries that are expected to thrive in 2025. So here are the industries that are expected to thrive in 2025. This was brought to you by PNC Insights. That's where I did the research for this section. It isn't too in-depth, so still do your own personal research. But I thought these were really good industries that I've noticed from the things that I've been doing in my business that I've seen to be more prevalent and things that are just trending right now. So, number one on the list, we're going to talk about cybersecurity. So, cybersecurity, it kind of explains itself, if that makes sense. It's like cyber kind of tech security in that sense. And there's a lot of people who are actually going to school for this right now, who are in programs to actually get certified in cybersecurity. There's lots of certificates that you can get into. I'm actually thinking about doing that as well, but not just for, I would say, if you're in this sector of some type of tech or you want to provide information for someone, as an entrepreneur, there's tons of opportunities just to get into cybersecurity if that's your realm. If it's not and you don't want to be an entrepreneur and you're just like, you know what, I just want to, be a skill so that I can have a 9 to 5 in something or work under a company or even work for the government. Cybersecurity isn't going anywhere. As technology gets more and more progressive, people are going to attack it, trying to find ways to get around things. And as you know, when the economy isn't doing so bad, crime rates go up. And crime isn't always going to be somebody hijacking you with a gun in your face or a knife or something like that. It starts online a lot of times. Like a lot of older people get scammed nowadays. A lot of younger people are falling for scams. There's different ways that AI is manipulating the landscape of everything that we're doing right now. So cybersecurity is just one of those things that it's good to just be mindful of because we're never not going to need it. Technology is just going to continue to advance and we're just going to always need protection. So yeah. Second, e-commerce marketplaces and online stores. I love this one because this is where I personally work in. I built websites, if you didn't know, through Posh Q Consultations. That's who sponsors every podcast that you see. That's my personal business and brand. And through that, I do a lot of marketing and branding. However, I specialize in web design. And a lot of those websites are e-commerce stores. And if they're not e-commerce stores, they're meant to kind of skew people to buying on the site, whether you know it or not. So e-commerce marketplaces and online stores, they're not going anywhere. As I said, technology continues to get more advanced. So is shoppers' needs and spending habits and the way that we just want to access our everyday merchandise. So we're always going to want the convenience of having something shipped to our door, or the convenience of just enjoying something in our house. And that's where e-commerce stores and marketplaces come in. Like, even from down to, I would say, just like the TikTok shop. It's not something that's is fairly like highly regarded as like an Amazon storefront, but Amazon wasn't even regarded as that. Amazon was really just an online bookstore when it started, and now you can kind of get anything that you need on Amazon, which is really really cool. But yeah, just small brands. It doesn't make that much sense to open brick and mortar stores anymore, especially not right now. The overhead costs and the rent prices, all that stuff is too high. And if you have something that you know the public is going to love, and you honestly already have a fan base and a clientele, it probably does make a lot more sense just to open your own e-commerce store, or on your online boutique, whatever you want to call it. I prefer to use Wix, but Shopify is a really good source as well. You have things such as like a WordPress, which is a little bit more daunting, but you have a lot more capabilities and everything. I specialize in Wix, and I do a little bit of WordPress websites. So, shameless plug. If you are interested in starting your e-commerce store, brand, whatever it may be, just let me know and hit me up, and I'll take care of you. Especially if you're a listener, let me know that first, and I'll really take care of you. But yeah, e-commerce marketplaces and online stores, they're not going anywhere. As long as we have the internet, all those things are expected to grow. They now exceed $6 trillion in 2024, and they're expected to hit $8 trillion by 2027. Like, come on. I feel like if you don't have some type of e-marketplace or something where you're selling something online, you kind of are leaving money on the table. As I've stated before, I work with a lot of brands who have e-commerce stores, but I myself decided to open an e-commerce store separate from what I do on my main website. I sell wrapping paper, and that's done nothing but, bring me extra income. Like, I do it through Etsy. Etsy is also a really good place if you don't actually want the hassle of being like, okay, I really don't want to deal with the online store situation. I don't really want to do too much advertising. I just know I have a good product that a lot of people would like, and I just kind of want to put it up there. I recommend it because maybe you really just know how to make specialized home products, or just things that you craft with your hands. I feel like Etsy is a really good place to do that. And even if it's just something that's very niche, I feel like Etsy is great for that. If you're a really good writer, or you know how to use AI really well, get those SEO topics in really good, and you'll be selling on Etsy, and you have that extra income coming in. So yes, I can't speak highly enough about e-commerce stores and in marketplaces. You should definitely hop on that. Next is telehealth. So I know if you've never used telehealth, I don't see how you haven't, because they make it super easily accessible and affordable for everyone. As you know, I'm recording in the United States. I know I have a couple of listeners who may come in from like the UK or in Africa, or just kind of spread out all over the globe. But here in the United States, we don't have free healthcare. You have to pay it out of pocket, or you have to no, you have to pay it out of pocket. I don't know why I was trying to explain it any other way. You have to pay it out of pocket. Even if you get it through your place of work, it's not entirely free. They literally take it out of your check. So healthcare is not free in this country. However, whatever healthcare plan I've ever been on, health insurance wise, I've always had a telehealth option that's been free. And it's super convenient for like those late night emergencies where you're just like, oh my gosh, can I even get into like see a doctor? I don't even know if I'll be able to do this right now. Yeah, it's typically free with whatever healthcare provider. They kind of all have their own type of situation, but I'm not sponsored, so I'm not going to get into the specifics of the brand and everything, but you definitely, it's a much more affordable option and convenient option versus going into a doctor's office. The only time I ever go into a doctor's office is if they literally ask me to come and see me in person, like if I'm having like a surgery of some sort or just my like regular checkup. You can do all those things on telehealth, and it's expected to, see a huge increase in 2025. Especially, I don't really know the laws around it, but I know, like, for me personally, like, I keep getting like ads for like Ozempic and weight loss things, and you literally just fill out a questionnaire and they just kind of give it to you. And that's kind of like in telehealth, because it's kind of like you don't go anywhere. It's literally virtual healthcare. And there's just it's just a lot of tools and apps and mobile apps and services now. And so of course it's definitely something that's going to like see an uptick this year, but I've personally seen a lot of it on my personal feed. And I think that that's like, it's kind of crazy because it's like, oh yeah, if you ever had like some even like minor infection or something, you just needed some antibiotics from the doctor, you just have to like wait for an appointment, and that may be like 3 days out, and then finally go, and maybe they'll diagnose you with the right thing, versus you can literally just call a doctor that night or super early in the morning, and they'll just be like, oh yeah, I sent it to your pharmacy and it's done, and you don't have to pay anything. Crazy concept. But anyway, next is educational services. I feel like this is a really good one to get into if you really are looking for extra income. If you know that you specialize in certain, educational skills such as math, language arts, and anything, you could be a tutor for college students or high school students. It's a huge industry for education, because everyone knows that education is kind of like the pathway to just leading and living a better life. So parents always want to invest in their kids' education, and it's definitely not anything that's like turn your nose up to. In 2023, the global education market was at 1 trillion, and it's expected to double to 2.4 trillion by 2032. Like I said, it's nothing to scoff at, and as technology continues to advance, it's only going to continue to grow, and there's going to be different tools to make it more easily and accessible. I know that there's certain people who have like jobs just being teachers in other countries right here in America, just because they're able to get on the camera and talk to you kind of like how I'm talking to you now, but they're teaching a class to like several students. And like I said, that's nothing to scoff at. Like it's a huge industry, and I feel like we don't talk about it enough, because education gets a bad rap. They're like, oh, teachers don't make enough and all of this, and I'm just like, listen, if you do it right, you can make anything work for you. There's plenty of teachers who live really great lives, who have houses, who, do everything that they want to do, and they're super accomplished. And of course, you don't get into necessarily education because you're trying to get rich, but you want to, enriching the future of the country you live in, or the generation or the community you're in. So that's why you do it. But teachers do get taken care of, and there is money in education. So don't turn your nose up at it. And lastly, we have alternate energy companies. So sustainability has always been a hot topic, I would say, since I was growing up. I remember like the reduce, reuse, recycle was like a really big thing. But now we're getting into like the hot topic of like technology. I know this whole thing was all over technology and everything, but just stay with me. But technology being such in the forefront of our everyday lives now, that it's probably not going to be a topic where technology doesn't come up in it. And so we have alternate energy companies just coming to the forefront. As you know, you have electric vehicles that are being more and more produced and more prominent, as you can see them like riding on the road. Outside of just Tesla, you have so many more companies that are just, coming out with their products, and people are buying them. And so now you have, a whole nother kind of source of people coming up outside of kind of like, not gas stations, but follow me, but kind of like, oh, charging stations for electric vehicles. That's a whole nother industry that cities are getting into, and just personal investors and entrepreneurs are getting into. And we still have all the other energy sources such as like wind, solar, hydroelectric power. All of those are still green alternatives that people are looking into. But since people are really big on sustainability, because we were supposed to be a little bit further down the line when we think in terms of global warming and helping the environment and making sure our environment is better. I don't think that we're where we were supposed to be or where we want to be. So there's definitely going to be an uptick on people trying to have better alternative energy sources and just, have more people work in those fields. So yeah, those are my Posh. Okay, those are my Posh assets that I wanted to share with you all. If you're ever thinking about, transitioning into another job, or if you are like in your current industry and you're kind of wondering like, okay, is this even the right industry to be in because I'm not seeing any money yet, and I kind of listed something or gave you any insight on an industry that you may be involved in, it's just letting you know that you are in the right place and just to keep going, because all those things are needed in what we're doing right now. Like everyone can't just, be a content creator. And that may seem kind of like weird because I'm literally content creating right now. But I do other things that I feel like are helpful to the world. And, we all are in this community, and we're all on this planet, and we all have to like contribute in different ways. And so I feel like it's good that we all differentiate the things that, we have to do to just make a living, but also just make the world a better place. And I feel like that sounds very cliche, but it's true. Like, these are all things that are projected to do good in 2025. So I definitely want people to take other looks at them and research them. But I feel like it's good to differentiate. Everybody can't be doing the same thing. So yeah, that wraps up our Posh Assets section. And I feel like that can kind of segue me into the next section that I want to talk about. In terms of kind of just like making sure that you're in the right path and just making sure that, what you're doing and the efforts that you're putting in today isn't going to waste. I feel like that's something that I've been questioning myself personally. And I talked to my therapist about it recently in my last session. And yeah, like I said, this is going to segue into the Posh Day in the Life. This is the lifestyle section. And I just kind of want to talk about feeling lost in your path and questioning if you're making the right decisions. So I feel like, honestly, behind every person that you feel like has it together, they've questioned if they're doing the right thing, if not once, twice, or thrice, just because it's really difficult, staying on one path and trying to stay focused on something and not really seeing the results of your rewards instantaneously. Especially because in this day and age, we live in a society where instant gratification is something that's so normalized, and it's something that we expect to get on the regular. But that's just not how life works. A lot of things work at their own time and at their own speed, and I feel like it's like super hard to kind of like keep moving when you don't see any type of gratification or any type of reward for what you're doing. Yeah, I was feeling like, I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I questioning everything I'm doing? Because I feel like definitely being an entrepreneur, I question if I should be doing this, if not every week, every day. So I'm like, okay, the things that I'm doing today are supposed to feed me tomorrow. I get that. But sometimes I'm just like, okay, what if when tomorrow comes, there's nothing there and I can't eat, and then I starve to death, and then I die. And then I start spiraling. And then when I get to that point, I'm just like, okay, we need to hone it in and we need to bring it in. And when we bring it in, we need to bring those hands in. We need to start praying. And then we need to start talking to God, and we need to start saying like, hey, I hear you. I'm trying to hear you louder. But what's going on? Like, is there something that I'm missing or something am I not seeing? Like, am I being faithful to you? Am I being faithful to what has been gifted to me and entrusted in me? Because for what I do feel like there is a certain level of skill, there's a certain level of talent, and there's a certain level of faith that you have to have in order to do this and to make this right. in terms of being like entrepreneur, in terms of just being a creative. Like there's so much that you have to have in order to make this right. And sometimes I do question if I'm supposed to be doing this, because I'm just like, okay, am I over my head? Should I just be having like a basic job and then just do something creative for free on the side? Like, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? But in all of that questioning, it brought me to picking up my Bible, and I decided to read Matthew 6:33. And I kind of just stumbled across it because in my Bible in the back, I think a couple of people probably have this because I just got my Bible off of Amazon. So I know a lot of Bibles are structured like this now, but you just kind of like go in the back. And I think, I don't remember the exact thing I was looking at. It was, I don't think it was worry, but it could have been. Between worry, questioning, and employment, it's all in the back of there. But the verse reads in Matthew 6:33, "Seek the kingdom of the Lord above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need." And so with that, I read it and I was like, okay, that cooled everything down. That stopped the fires that was going on in my head. And I was just like, okay, I think I can see this through, because I have to understand, above all else, I should be, seeking God. A lot of times I get so caught up in like, oh my gosh, I have this due. I have to pay this. When is this client going to pay that? Oh, I need to get more clients. I need to do this. Oh, this person wants to go here. Can I afford to go on this trip? And it's like, it starts spiraling. And then I always have to reel myself back in and be like, okay, so why are you even doing this? You started your business not just because you needed the money, but because you wanted to help people. Like, you wanted to help people in a way that you knew that you could effectively and efficiently help them. And so sit in that and rest in that. That's one. And then two, you should be involving God in everything, whether it's your relationships, your job, your business, everything, because you see how fast I can just get pulled out of it, and I'm thinking of everything, but I'm not. I'm centering all of my thoughts around my issues and the lack of things, and forgetting that I'm very abundant. Like, I'm very blessed. I'm very abundant, and God has been faithful to me because he hasn't let me not eat yet. He hasn't let me not get paid yet. Like, and it's not even a yet, it's just a period. Like, he has not failed. So why would I think that I need to spiral so much? And that was something that I really struggled with when I first became a full-time entrepreneur. I was just spiraling. And it was just like, I don't know. Instead of just asking for clarity, asking for peace so that I can listen to him and he can lead me. And I ain't gonna lie, a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten that, continues to sustain me, I didn't have to like go out there and physically fight or claw my way to get it. It was a phone call. And it was just like, oh, can you do this? And I'm like, yes, I can. And then another phone call, like, oh yeah, I'm looking for this. Are you able to do this? Yes, I can. And they're never things that I have to fight my way for. It's always things that have just been provided because God is a provider. So the points that I do want to make in this section of the Posh Day in the Life is you do have to understand your passions. And when I say that is understand your why for why you're doing things, understand the things that you love, and understand how they're supposed to like lead you and guide you. Like, from a young girl, I loved doing things on the computer, as far as like graphic designs and just being on the computer, whether I was having fun playing Sims, I was building houses, doing interior decorating, designing outfits. All of that shaped my creativity of who I am today. And I'm pretty sure that led me to, going and getting my fashion degree because I love that. Even when I was in high school, I took 3D animation, and that really exposed me to like, oh yeah, like, would I do 3D animation? Probably not, but it's really cool that there's so many like, jobs that are creative, and like, they're creative but they can give you a living, because the whole starving artist thing, I'm like, I don't ever want to be that. But I do understand. I understood, I would say, at that time, like, oh, yeah, there's places where you can be professional and you can be creative and you can be compensated. And that's always where I've wanted to be. And so just understanding that from a young age, I knew exactly where my creativity lied and how I wanted to express it and how I wanted to expand it. And then from that, knowing what you're good at and your passions, do they help people or help the world? So what I do is I help a lot of small businesses, and helping small businesses is then in turn helping families, and helping families is helping your community. And I would say, even for what I charge, I don't charge anything exuberant. Now, I have started charging my worth, because I used to charge way, like, super cheap, y'all. Like, my first logos were $30. That's crazy. But I would say, like, understanding, like, your true, I would say understanding your why will help you understand, like, how you're helping people and you're helping the world. Like, I do this for the forefront of everything I do. Is kind of like, I want to help people. I noticed there was a need and there was a lack of just small businesses looking as professional as they needed to be. There was a lot of small businesses that I saw, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I love their product, or I love their food, or I could see them going really far. I could even see them being in an actual store on a shelf, but they don't have the branding that they need to, like, sit up next to, bigger brands, or even just like brands that are slightly bigger than them, but they had it. And a lot of people just don't know. And you can't help for what you don't know. And it sucks, because there are a lot of people who I encounter, like, they have the budgets to, like, have a full branding package, but they can't find the right people to help them. There's a lot of people out there who want to take advantage. As soon as they hear marketing, people think, oh, social media, and they just jump on that, when it's so much more than that. And people just take advantage of people. And I was like, you know what, I'm tired of it, and I want to be somebody who can actually help people and not take advantage of them, and kind of, like, prey on their weaknesses. I want to actually be somebody who's an asset on their team, who they can call and depend on, and know that, like, yeah, Sierra said that she's going to do a website for me. I know she's going to do it. It's going to look amazing, and it's actually going to, convert into sales. It's not just going to be something that looks pretty. It's going to be functional. And that's the main reason why I do what I do. And does it make you feel good? In my free time, I'm on Canva just messing around, doing, like, small things, just making fake brands from time to time. Like, that's what I do to kind of, like, relax. Almost like coloring, like how people, some people color in coloring books to, like, de-stress. Side note, I do not do that. For some reason, that spikes my anxiety. I don't know. It must be a childhood trauma. But I don't color for a stress relief. But I do, like, mess around on Canva and design stuff on the computer and everything. Like, those are things that make me feel at peace. And those are the things that, make me feel together and make me feel happy. And so, yeah. If all those things of understanding your passion and doing good for people in the world, and it makes you feel good, then that's what you should be doing. And I feel like you just have to you have to trust that all of those things are going to lead you to making what you need, to being provided for. Because at the end of the day, like I said, you have to bring it back to God. If he's not involved, it's not going to work anyway. But you just have to seek him first, and then just trust that everything is going to work out in the end. Because you have to understand, like, he gave you these gifts, these talents, the thoughts, like, the ideas to do it anyway. So he's already provided for you. He's already given you the gift. He just wants you to trust in him, that he's going to lead the right way, and you're going to be all right. So yes, that wraps up the Posh Day in the Life section. We're going to be right back after this break. So don't go nowhere. Stay right there. Posh Q Consultation is a consulting and branding company that specializes in business consulting, branding, and web development. We're accepting new clients and new projects. Visit us at poshqconsult.com. Okay, and we're back. So, in this segment, this is the Ask My Consultant section. And I'm going to be actually answering some questions from the DM that I received. If you ever want to have a question submitted for the podcast, it could be completely anonymous unless you want to shout out your business. I don't mind doing that. They can be business, lifestyle, or relationship based questions. So yeah, send them to poshtalkpod@gmail.com. The actual email will be in the show notes as well. Or you can just go to my Instagram, I am Posh C, or the Posh Talk Pod Instagram. So POSHTALKPOD. So yeah, Posh Talk Pod. So yes, let's get into the first question. So, first question. What advice do you give feminine presenting queer women in Atlanta? I feel like this is a good one. I feel like there's a couple takes that you could take because I'm like, is this like a relationship dating question or is it kind of just like a in general lifestyle? But I'm going to answer it kind of like both ways. So, the advice that I give to feminine presenting queer women in Atlanta is no one's gonna like I would say, okay, I'll start from like kind of like a lifestyle thing. Just being queer in general, you definitely have a lot of, queer counterparts that you either have or you're gonna encounter because this is Atlanta, like hello. And just be cognizant of your experience is just going to be very different than your other friends who aren't feminine presenting. You have to make sure that you're cognizant of that. You just have to make sure that you're aware of it. I think when I first moved to Atlanta, I noticed how much masculine women just were not in corporate spaces. And that did bother me because I'm like, they're going to school too. Like, I went to school with like a handful of them. And like, you just don't see them in a lot of, professional settings all the time. And I think that is done strategically and systematically. And that really sucks. So I feel like the best thing you can do is always advocate for them, bring them into rooms, just advocate for your friends and, level them up and just understand that they just go through a different plight than you do because we kind of like mask it straight a lot. Especially me in my first corporate role, I'm like, I don't know how y'all get down in here. I don't know if y'all would accept me or who I am. So my personal life was kind of like just off limits. Y'all didn't need to know. I would say my second job, it was like a lot more lax and a lot more like chill. And if you understand the different places that you work at, I really still don't recommend being super like, I don't know, open about your personal life at work because I just feel like it gets a little unprofessional. But I will say just understanding that my biggest advice is just understanding that you don't wear it on your sleeve, which I don't think that's a problem or anything, but they're just not going to know. And that's just that. Now, when it comes to dating, who child? Dating in Atlanta is very ghetto. It's very, 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 very ghetto. You're gonna go through a lot of duds before you find someone even just decent enough to just date regularly, and they still might not be the one, and that's okay. I feel like it's way harder to date here than most other places. So you just have to realize that you have to be a little bit more robust here when dating. Yeah, but I will say when I was dating in Atlanta, I had a lot of fun. There's always lots to do. Be open-minded, be strict. um, and yeah, like it's super fun. But I think that would be like my tips for just feminine presenting women in Atlanta. I would say, oh, I forgot about men. Anyway, I would say men are the most disrespectful about it because since you don't present as something like you present as a straight woman to them, and so they're looking like, okay, so I don't understand why you can't date me. And it's just like because I'm not attracted to you, and like it's like a whole math equation will go in their head and they just won't understand. Like there'll be times where it's just like, oh yeah, I'll mention like, yeah, I have a girlfriend, and it'll just be like sideswipe, like they just don't understand it or comprehend it as being like an actual true real relationship. And so you just have to be cognizant that men are going to be disrespectful. And not outright as like far as catcalling or touching, but it's just like they just don't honor a lot of queer relationships as being real relationships when they approach a feminine woman. So just be cognizant of that. That's my advice. Okay. I'm gonna do one more question so we don't run over too long. Realistically, are you still able to start businesses with no cash in 2025? No, you're not. You cannot realistically start a business in 2025 with no cash. Thank you, America. You have messed up the economy. But no, for real. It probably was super like if you I'm trying to think who has that story. I cannot think of that lady name. Love her now, no. But I used to always see like growing up all the women who were selling like hair back in like the 2015s and everything, they'd be like, I started my business with $300 and now I'm a multi-millionaire. I'm like, girl, you can't do that nowadays. Like, you could probably do a little 1 2, but you do need a little bit more. And $300 is still gracious enough. Like, $300, you can do something. Don't get me wrong. You can do something with $300, but it's not going to be like, oh yeah, $300, you're about to be an overnight sensation overnight. It doesn't work that way. Like the hair game doesn't even work that way anymore. So yeah, I feel like realistically, no, you can't start a business with no cash. Like that's just unrealistic. You to have a successful business, you are going to have to put something into it. You're going to have to put your own physical work into it, and you're going to have to put your own physical cash into it. And with that being said, I feel like a lot of small businesses and a lot of black owned businesses as well, they think that they just have to put all their cash into it and that's what's going to make it successful, and that's not the case. I would encourage any business owner or any new business owner, use other people's money. Like, stop trying to use all your money. Use other people's money. Like, that's what any other successful business did. All these Fortune 500 companies, like, they're not just using all their cash on hand to pursue, new ventures or open a new building or doing that. Like, they're borrowing. Even if you have the cash, you never just pour all your cash into one venture because anything can happen. There's so many loose ends that can, get frayed in the rope of things, and I just feel like you would never just want to sink all your money into something that's not sure. Like going into business is gambling in a sense, because it could work really well and it also could work moderately well, and it could just not work out at all, and it could be from a multitude of things. So I would never say like start a business with no money, because it's not really going to go anywhere without any money. And don't just solely rely on your money. Like, even if it's like you might not be able to secure a bank loan, but if you have decent credit, get a credit card. Put some things on a credit card and pay it off. Like, get a small loan that you can, like, handle and afford, and match your money with that and see where that takes you. But don't stop using all your own cash. It's going to hurt you in the end. And yeah, that's my advice for that. Best of luck. If you are thinking of starting a new business and things. Even my last business venture, that was like, I think someone did ask me about the Etsy thing, and they were just like, oh, like, does it take money to start Etsy? It does. And I'm telling you from experience, I was just like, oh, I started this business like a little bit before Christmas, right? And I had my business account connected to it, like my cash business account, y'all. And they started drafting that money out. I said, oh no, oh no, we have to stop this. I switched that to a credit card so quick, because I'm just like, I had no idea the orders were going to pick up how they were. And yeah, in order for that stuff to print out, I have to pay for it up front and then see my money on the back end. So even if I'm selling it at an upsell, it's like, you see your money, but when am I going to see my money? I've just sunk all my cash into this, and I don't even have the money. I don't even have the money no more. I just see my bank account balance going down. I'm like, okay, but when are my funds getting released? So yeah, just keep that in mind. You just always want to use somebody else's money too when you're doing business. I use somebody else's money when I'm doing business now, and I did not know do that in the beginning, and so that's the best thing I can tell you. Even if you don't have that much money, use somebody else's money. So yes, that wraps up our episode for today. Thank you for listening to Posh Talk. Please like, share, comment. That really helps boost the podcast and the algorithms, whether it be in the Spotify player, the Apple Podcast player. And if you see my content on Instagram, please interact. Please, please, please. It's crazy. I don't know what it is, but I'll post like a picture or something and I'll get like hundreds of likes, and then I post about the podcast and it gets 10. So please interact. Thank you. And bye guys. Have a good one. Love you. Stay posh.